Welcome to the Dingus Den.
Welcome to the Dingus Den, everybody. For our 5th episode of the Comic Club tonight, I'm joined by Chris, as usual, and our special guest is Lunga from Council of Six. What's up, guys?
How's it going?
What's
chilling.
up?
Just chilling? It's good to hear, good to hear. Anyway, we're going to be covering all 12 issues of Crisis on Infinite Earths, the granddaddy of all comic events. This story was written by Marv Wolfman, penciled by the late legend George Perez. Lots of different inkers and colorists that worked on this. Dick Giordano, he was one of the main inkers on this, as well as Mike DiCarlo, Jerry Ordway, colored by Anthony Tolan, Tom Zuico, and Carl Gafford. So I guess before we dive deep into each of these individual issues, what is everybody's overall impressions of this story?
Give it the introduction it deserves. The most electrifying comic series in comic book history.
There we go.
The
thing is, ever since this event came out, DC has tried over and over to try to make another event to be anywhere up to this level, and they just haven't. Every event tries to be this, and they just can't.
Nope.
There is a lot.
There is a lot.
There is a lot.
They
do a great job of putting a lot in there and making it work.
They try to recapture it so much they put Crisis in the title of every series.
Yeah.
This is true.
And add other adjectives to it. Dark Crisis.
Right.
And let's bring back Superboy Prime. Let's bring back Anti-Monitor. Let's keep doing. Okay.
You're just gonna do it over and over and over. Trying to be this. Literally, the last Crisis they did was called Dark Crisis, and they literally renamed it after 3 issues to be called Dark Crisis on Infinite Earths. Trying to prove that it's the true sequel, unlike however other mini crises became between the two.
Every time people point to comic books when there's problems like with the movies, I always point out, just look at DC Comics itself. Lately, the last 15 years, they are confused in the comic side too. They still don't know what the hell to do.
They don't.
So it's
They try. It's like every rebirth or start over, reset button. It's like it always looks promising, and then always goes downhill at some point. Or, New 52 and it goes downhill right away. But, But anyway, this is such a huge event. And I guess we'll just get started right on it, I guess. Unless there's any other thoughts that anybody has before we get right into this.
No, we can go ahead. I guess I want to preface this in case people don't know this too, because even though as much we glorify this series, it was literally done for the same reasons they're always done. They're like, you know what? We've had so many storylines. We've had so much stuff. It's all crazy. Let's just reboot everything. Let's just start all over again. Oh, we bought all these other comic books characters. They got Captain Marvel brought in. They got in the Blue Beetles and all the stuff from what's the label? This is escaping me. Where Blue Beetle came from. But they bought all these different heroes and they had to bring them in. Like, well, how are we going to bring them in? And they merged them all. Constantine, they merged them all into one universe, and it was an easy way to bring it all in and then reboot everything. So it wasn't just we want to tell a great story. It was literally done for the same reasons they're always done for.
Yeah, it's interesting. They did so much research into this one too, which is insane. In the intro to the trade that I read for this, the writer Marv Wolfman, he was talking about how they announced it at a Comic-Con in 1981, and the series came out from January to December of 1985. And so they did so much work into just researching every single aspect and I know Perez looked so much into making sure to get the costumes of every single character right, because this comic has an insane amount of characters in it, and so much research had to be done for this. It's crazy, and the fact of how much they've been able to just pull it off is also just crazy too. As we'll be delving all into that. So yeah. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start going into each of one of these issues. And that's going to begin with issue 1, which is titled "The Summoning." Very beginning here, it begins the birth of the multiverse, and then jumps ahead to where we then see this Earth die. I don't think this Earth was named, but we then see this character that we later learn his name is Pariah. He then is forced to witness the death of every Earth. So after seeing this Earth die, he then disappears to go see another Earth die. But instead, this Earth, which is actually Earth 3, you then see the crime syndicate there. They're doing their best to try to stop this calamity that's going on. But the Earth gets wiped away. But before that Earth gets wiped away, Lex Luthor, which is actually the sole hero of that Earth, then takes his child, as we later learn his name is Alexander Luthor, and sends him off to safety to another Earth. And then we meet all sorts of other characters. We then see Lila, and as she's then recruiting different heroes among different Earths to try to stop whatever this whole calamity that's going on between all the different Earths. We then see her turn into... Yeah, so like I said, she gathers all sorts of different heroes here. So she gathers, like, the King of the Gorilla City, Solovar. She gathers Dawnstar from the Legion of Superheroes, Firebrand, Blue Beetle, Psycho Pirate, Firestorm, Killer Frost, all these different characters. But then, while she's recruiting these characters, you also see her getting infected by the Shadow. And then, anyway, after she gathers all that, you then see that they're all gathered in this place known as the Monitor's Satellite. It's like the space station that's up in space, up in one of the Earth space, I think, or is it in its own limbo? I don't remember. And so, yeah, we see all these different characters gathered. We also see Superman from Earth 2 there, Geoforce, Cyborg, all sorts of different characters all gathered here in this satellite. And then we see the Shadows come together and attack these heroes in the satellite. But then there's this huge flash that makes all the shadows go away, and then the Monitor reveals himself, and that is where this issue ends.
Yes, it is in its own limbo.
Yeah, that's what I thought after. I was like, wait, not on Earth space. It's weird because it's always like, I always viewed it as like a space station, but it's in its own limbo. Yeah. But yeah, so this issue sets up this huge calamity, this big threat of where we're seeing Earth's being destroyed. We see Pariah. We just get a glimpse at so many of these different characters that'll be big players, but this is just the first big setup for just what's to come. What's your thought on it, Chris?
I mean, it was interesting, the choice of characters that they decided to have be the first characters the Monitor
the first wave.
Yeah, the first wave. It was definitely a ragtag group for sure. I loved the Lex Luthor stuff. It felt very Superman origin story, which was perfect. So that was cool. But yeah, I love the character Pariah. He's one of my favorite characters in this whole arc. I enjoy seeing him right away.
Oh, for sure. Lots of great characters, for sure. It's crazy to think, though. It's like I could just remember, reading this. You see all the heroes on the satellite, and it's like, holy crap! Look at this. So many heroes on this page, and then you see later on, Just
Yeah,
this is nothing.
yes.
All right, when
Yeah.
looking through this at the beginning, it's like, okay, this is nothing compared to what's to come. But yeah, so yeah,
For me, the greatest part was the opening is
Mhm.
to see the creation of Harbinger, which I I love Pariah too. Don't get me wrong,
Mhm.
but she was my favorite. I loved her in
Oh
this. I
yes,
thought her design was so cool. Just her name is what she is, and the same thing with Pariah. Like their names are what they are,
Mhm.
you know. And that's but she's a harbinger, and she's going around, she's collecting it, and
yeah,
you said it's like, oh, this like odd cast. It was going to what I said at the beginning about how DC had just bought all these different universes, and these
Mhm.
were a lot of these initial characters were characters from these other
yeah,
comic book labels. So they're trying to introduce at the beginning of this for DC readers who are used to Batman, Superman, their guys. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Mhm.
So that's why they brought him in that way. I like that we got at the very beginning we get Psycho Pirate, who becomes such an important thing
yes,
throughout the
Mhm.
entire series. And they bring him in there, which I thought was spectacular. And I mean, we even got a little, we got the, Atlantis going on,
right,
Yeah.
yeah, with him. And it was just, there was so much good stuff going in with that. And then we get, then we get the reveal of the Monitor. You see all these people in there. And the one thing I loved about Perez's art, especially in this too, when they're in that, in Monitor's satellite, it has kind of that, um, Kirby-esque 60s kind of feel, like what he did with the Eternals, and what he did with the Celestials, all that weird kind of psychedelic kind of artwork. And you can see Perez kind of had that kind of same feel in this when he did this. But the panels, right? The panels were so big. They
right,
made such big panels, and the artwork was spread out, and you see all these characters from different places from all over the universe, and it's just a start. It is just a start, and that's what hooked me when I first got this. I'm like, when I first read this, I'm like, oh, who are all these people? What is going on? What is all this? And you don't see like your real. I mean, the Golden Age Superman, right? But you don't see like your main crew. You don't see your Justice League here. You don't see you see all these other characters being brought in, and it's supposed to be something big. And I'm like, this is how it starts, and it's like, wow. So yeah, it blew me away. I wasn't a fan of the Monitor's facial hair and head hair styles. I don't know what was going on with that.
it's
Um,
it's funny because I look at that and I think like that's a tattoo at first. It's weird.
no, it's hair.
No, it's hair. It's
Hair.
just hair here. It's
But his outfit's cool.
Definitely.
His outfit's
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
And when we later get to Anti-Monitor, you can see how both their outfits kind of mirror each other a little bit. But yeah.
Fascinating characters. They're great. As we learn more about them later on for sure. But yeah, any other beginning thoughts on this one? No? Alrighty. Well, then we'll get right into the second issue here, the second part of this grand story that is titled Time and Time Again. We begin seeing Anthro, where he saves his village from these mammoths that then just disappear and then reappear in the 30th century, and then where the Legion of Superheroes are, and then they then disappear again. And so that's when you start seeing some of these other sort of heroes, specifically Brainiac 5 here, where he then discovers that, okay, there's this force out there that's then sweeping over these Earths and destroying them. And then we then cut to go see Batman confronting Joker in a classic Batman style, but then Batman's interrupted by by Flash just appearing and then giving a warning that that the world is dying. We then go back to the Monitor space station, of where he's then telling them about all these different Earths dying, and that they are then tasked with being split up into these groups into different, and then they have to defend these different focal points across these different Earths or times of the Earths. And so then we also get this another quick glimpse over at Oa, where we then see the Guardians of the Universe as they prepare to gather Green Lanterns, but are then stopped. We then see the Batman and Superman of Earth 1. That's going to be a special distinction here, as we're seeing two main Superman in the story. And so, the Superman of Earth 2, that's the one with the white hair. And then, the normal, just black-haired Superman, that's, the normal Earth 1 Superman here. But anyway, they team up, and then they find Pariah giving the same warning that Flash gave before the Pariah then has to disappear to see another Earth suffer. And then we then see heroes defending these different focal points. Many times they're also like teamed up with different characters from those realities to help defend against these like shadows that's attacking these different focal points. We then see Lila. She then finds the baby, which is Alexander Luthor, then grown into like this young child. We then see Psycho Pirate get compromised and then gets teleported away to this dark area where he's now then promises to serve this new threat that you hear, this new voice that just, you don't know what it is. You just commands him. And then the focal point where Psycho Pirate was just at is now just hours away from death. Monitor is trying to make arrangements for this new Dr. Light to be made. But the antimatter, which is what's destroying everything, is just moving too fast and is just weakening him. And then as the issue ends, there's a couple different monologues that happens. One from this main enemy, of where he then speaks to Harbinger and talks about the many different universes that's fallen to him. And then the other is from the Monitor, as he talks about the only hope to, save everything is if everything plays exactly right with, Lila, aka Harbinger, or Pariah, the child that's now from Earth 3, aka Alexander Luthor, and the champions that he has scattered across the universes now, defending these different focal points across these different Earths and times. So yeah, lots of stuff here. Lots to delve into here for sure. Yeah. Thoughts?
You want to go, Chris? Go ahead.
No, you can go. Go ahead.
Yeah, this issue, it shows the incredible, and this is why I love this series so much compared to anything else, the incredible pacing. There's so much going on, yet they're not rushing through any of it. It's paced so tremendously well as it just goes along through issue to issue. And you see the heroes that they're still approaching it like, it's another day in Heroville, right? And it's like, it's okay. We're gonna do all this. We're gonna take care of this stuff. Let's just go do what we gotta do, right? We always win. We're the good guys,
right?
So you see that going on, and different, different heroes that you're not used to seeing. And then they tease us, right, with the Green Lanterns, and
right,
it's hard to say. I don't want to be spoilery because I think it was made in '85. But it's what happens with the Green Lantern Corps is at the core of what started this whole fucking thing,
right.
Or at least the ancient Oeans, is what started this whole thing. And I've said this already, and I want to say it again here for posterity's sake. When James Gunn said, when he was talking about the Green Lantern Corps series, he says how they're investigating a mystery and it's going to be central to the entire storyline of his whole 10-year plan. That tells me what is going to happen here is what's there, he's using there, and the end goal, their Infinity War is Crisis, and that's how he's placing those seeds. So we get that little cue there, which we end up seeing as a big deal later. The Flash, oh my god, the Flash is my guy. I've said this so many times how much he is my hero. That is my hero, and everyone makes the joke about how the heroes never die. They always come back, right? A year or two later, they come back. 25 years it took for Barry Allen to fucking come back, man. Okay?
Yeah.
Well, a little under 25, but 20 years. It took a long ass time for him to come back. And And I was like, Jesus Christ. And at the beginning of this, it's like, wait, is he dead? What's going on? I don't know what's happening. What's happening? And the way they weave that in, and then when you see it later, the whole timey-wimey shit, Doctor Who kind of fucking timey-wimey shit later, it's so tremendously sad and inspiring. And it was such a great story. Anthro was kind of cool. It's kind of like an Encino Man thing. He like pops up here in the middle of this fucking futuristic world. He's like jumping around like Encino Man and shit. Hey, what's going on, guys? And then we get more, of how Harbinger is going to play into this and what she's eventually going to do. And then we get the Alexander Luthor, which is, the Messiah character. Let's be honest, that's what it comes down to with him, is kind of the Messiah character. And I like what they do with him. I don't like what they do with him later in the other stupid series that they've come out with. But yeah, so they're real interesting stuff. And again, the key to this is that the pacing, right? It's like the events that happen here is like, oh, they're not that big of a deal. They're taking out these, focal points or whatever. It seems like another, regular story. And then you get the ominous, BBEG at the end of the issue as well. So yeah, great issue.
It's just crazy how much there is in each of these issues and still able to keep up, like, just a cohesive story with how much is going on and being able to just pace it so well. It's crazy, like, just how much they're able to juggle so well, because there's so much that happens in every single issue, and they jam as much as they can into a single page.
Yeah. And if no one can see the foreshadowing on the last page with Anti-Monitor and Monitor both talking to her, it's like, come on, guys.
Right. Lunga, you said it best. For the superheroes, it's like business as usual. That's what I kind of love about it. Like you said, they're able to weave it all together, and the pacing is great. I think that's part of the reason why, is because they're superheroes. This is the stuff they deal with every day anyway. So they're not going to panic, and they're going to keep it at that pace. While if it was like a movie about normal people dealing with this stuff, it would be, or because you're not really going to see a comic about normal people dealing with this kind of stuff. It would be worse pacing. The pacing, like you said, is fantastic. I love how they weave Joker into it. That to me is like, oh, Joker's got to get his moment. He's got to. It's Joker. We got to give Joker his moment. Always got to give Joker his moment in the sun. So that to me was fantastic. I loved all the time intersection stuff, like the woolly mammoths in the future with the Legion and everything was great. The Flash foreshadowing, we'll call it, was fantastic as well.
I just love that whole section there with just, it's your classic Batman versus Joker, and then gets just interjected here. And it really shows how every single portion of the universe is just all, threatened now.
Yeah. For all you MCU lovers out there who like, oh, Tony Stark, the ultimate sacrifice. You don't know.
You don't know.
You don't know.
Another thing I love about this issue is how they did like the whole little introduction panels with the whole lineup of like characters, and then so you like all these new characters. And like the great thing about reading it online is you can do the reading mode. So I got to look at that like up close. So like, oh look, Psychopirate, Firebrand, like you said, Lunga, like who the freak are these characters? But
you really want to have fun with it? Really, because I have the three monitors. I have one of my monitors vertical, right, for our D&D stuff. Yeah. Look at it on a vertical monitor. I'm telling you, it's a gigantic comic book.
Yeah,
that's great.
That's great. Yeah, that is fantastic.
That's awesome.
But
that's what I did.
Yeah, you do. That's a good point. That's exactly what you need.
Anyway,
But yeah, no, and then the whole the tuning forks, as they're called, those to me are really cool. I love that whole concept of the vibrations of the earth, and just how they mix science into it all is really, really cool.
For sure. There's just so much great stuff here.
That's the thing. I could keep going on. We don't want to keep going on.
Right.
Otherwise, we'd be here for hours.
That's the thing. Is this is going to be a long one, because like we're only just 2 in, and we're already at like 25 minutes. So let's just carry on here. Issue 3 is titled Oblivion Upon Us. It begins with the Monitor testing on the child, aka Alexander Luthor, as he's this key that we will figure out, his importance later on. But anyway, the big bad guy, he tells Harbinger to destroy the child, but then we then cut to see the Flash from Earth 1 running through this central city getting destroyed as he then phases away. Then cut back to this current time of Earth 1 to at the end of the world is at hand, as we then see Teen Titans and the Outsiders try to stop it and just try to rescue as many people as possible. We then see Batman and Superman join them. And then the Flash appears again with another warning, saying that something's happening in the future, and then he just disappears again. And then cut to see Brainiac in deep space, as he then realizes that the end of the universe is here and that he will need help from Earth to be able to stop this. And then we then see more of these different focal points. So we then see this one focal point, which is in the middle of World War II, where we see Sergeant Rock and his crew fighting against the Nazis, and then they team up with the heroes to fight all the shadows. Specifically, heroes here, there's like Geoforce, Blue Beetle, and Dr. Polaris. And then we then see the Monitors start sending back champions that's not much use to him. And then we also see another focal point in 1879, where Cyborg, Green Lantern, Firebrand, and Simon are then joined by Jonah Hex and his crew. So, classic Wild West here. And then we see now that the antimatter is now in all these time periods where, all these different focal points are. And then ends with the Harbinger getting ready to kill the Monitor. That's this issue. Just to start off, I think I really loved seeing the focal point in World War II with Sergeant Rock and all his crew there. I just really enjoy, I like seeing how you see the regular war go on, and then you see just the heroes then come in, and then the Sergeant Rock and his crew, after defeating the Nazis, they then team up to defeat the shadows that then start trying to, cause havoc and, do their minion-y things. And then just, like I said, more Flash, and it's just also cool seeing Jonah Hex there. I like seeing all these, older timey heroes all together in one. What did you all think? Chris? You're muted.
Thank you. The time travel stuff was, the definitely the different time periods, the World War II, the Old West, definitely the highlights of this issue. Seeing Brainiac was definitely cool, having him introduced, because you always wonder how are the supervillains going to react to this kind of event. And so they start with Brainiac, and he I love the way they designed him in this, the art style, and the way they drew him and his ship.
Classic Brainiac
Flash.
too.
What?
Classic Brainiac too. Here.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, it's classic. It's not the new Brainiac that we see now.
That we're used to nowadays.
Yeah.
Sure.
But then again, it all comes back to the Flash.
It all does.
Again, all comes back to the Flash, and seeing all those heroes together, and the different groups, Titans, and what was the other group that was there?
See, like I said, Titans and Outsiders at the beginning.
Outsiders. That was the other group. Outsiders. So yeah, seeing them was definitely cool. I really enjoyed seeing Titans, and the old art, like old costume.
Oh, that collar.
Not wings.
That collar, man.
That collar, man. Yeah. Oh.
It's funny.
And I'll pass it on the Lunga after that.
A lot in this issue. This issue was one of those key issues, which makes sense being the third one, to where it does a lot of setting up of important plot points. What it does, so we get more of Harbinger. The importance of Alexander Luthor, obviously, we see that, and we see the duality of Harbinger and how she cares for Monitor, but she's doing the bidding of Anti-Monitor, and the way she just at the very beginning just slams down Psycho Pirate. She's just like, get away from me, bitch.
Right.
Just leave me alone. I sense fear in you. I'm not here for you. Get away from me. Away from me, she says. Those are her exact words. Away from me, Psycho Pirate. And he's like telling the Anti-Monitor is like, oh, I can still blind loyalty or love, because he talks about her mind's a jangling mass of contradictory emotions, which is really what she's going to. And again, this is one of the things that really drew me to her character in this whole thing, because it's like new character, right? They created her for this, and the part she played without like being one of the heroes or the villains was just so integral to everything that happened, and I loved the way they put that in. And then we get to the Flash. One thing a lot of people don't realize, we didn't even get into this, because there was more than just these 12 issues. There was so many
60.
crossover events for a year leading up to Crisis. There was all these crossover events, and then crossover events during Crisis that play off back. One thing that happened simultaneously this time was the end of, at the time, Flash Comics. Now it's called Volume 1 because they brought it back with Wally West, and that's the Volume 2 era of Flash Comics. But that started back in issue 1 with Jay Garrick in 1959 and ran through 350 issues through Golden Age, and then starting with 240 something or 149, 150, starting with 150 of Flash Comics with Barry Allen in the Silver Age, going all the way up to this. And for those that don't, this is one of those things where it's like you almost got to know what was going on with the Flash to appreciate this. This is the whole Tony Stark thing I was talking about, right? And I still say they stole this from the Flash, because they're like, oh, look, all this crazy stuff happened, but he even though stuff was falling apart, he got his life, right? He got his daughter, he's got his wife, and he's happy, and he just got it. And now it's like, oh, now I'm gonna lose it all. And I can't lose it all. I can't lose it all. Barry Allen had gone through so much in those last 50 issues, I want to say, of Flash Comics, maybe 20 issues. He was accused of murder. He was the Reverse Flash killed Iris. Okay, he was accused of killing a villain. His face, Big Sur beat the fuck out of him. He had to have facial reconstructive surgery and all this other stuff. And Iris is gone. Then he finds out that she was like sent to the future. They did this in the TV show, I think, too. She was sent to the future. She was actually from the future, and her soul was sent to the future. He found out that she was actually in the future. And when it ended at issue 350, Barry Allen walks off, goes to the future, walks out of the sunset. He is done being the Flash. He's going to spend the rest of his life with Iris. Issue 350, which ended right before Crisis. And in this panel, he's like, I've lived here for only a month now. It was a month of time. He's been in the future for a month with his wife finally. And all this shit starts. And what happens to him afterwards, this is so important to know his a little bit of history right before Crisis with Barry Allen, to understand what he does in Crisis that makes it so poignant and so important to everything. But yeah, it was great. And we get the Outsiders. And it was cool too, because you get the little juxtaposition. You get the Teen Titans, which are like the sidekicks, right? And the main one being Dick Grayson, which was Batman's sidekicks. And you get the Outsiders, which was Batman's group that he started on his own. To do stuff. So you get that kind of juxtaposition with those two groups, all originating from kind of Batman, really, if you think about it, especially when you think about Dick Grayson being kind of the leader of it. So you get those two kind of groups there, and so that was really cool to see. Then you get more of the ominous warnings from Barry. You get a little more Pariah. We get the Brainiac thing, which is kind of important, but it's like, I like Brainiac. I didn't really care for him too much in Crisis, to be honest with you. It seemed every time they went to him, it seemed like it threw me off the story for some reason. I don't know why. I did, but you were right, Spencer. Too, the whole Sergeant Rock thing was pretty cool to see too. These just these are just dudes fighting World War II, man. You know, they're not. I mean, they're heroes, right? You know, as far as regular humans outside of reading and stuff, we know our military men and people fought World War II. They are heroes, but in this world, they're soldiers. They're not superheroes, but there they are, just fighting World War II, punching Nazis. Suddenly, they're in the middle of all this fucking nonsense, which was really cool to see. And I did enjoy that too. And we got a little Geoforce and stuff and everything too. But yeah, so it was a cool issue that set up a lot of important plot points to come in the series altogether. So yeah, that was a little long-winded on that one, but that's my thoughts on that.
I will say I greatly appreciate the whole Flash recap. I'll be honest, I haven't read like any of that old Flash stuff. I've only I've just never been a big Flash person, so I've only read like a few Flash stories.
When you're reading a comic book and it's got that little asterisk next to what he's saying, and the insert it says see issue 350 of Flash.
Yeah. So many of them.
So many of those.
Yeah.
So many of those in this.
There's, if you look on DC Universe on their their comic site, they have it listed to where there's 60 total for just this event. And so that's pretty crazy how much is fully involved in this. If you're to actually go through and read every single tie-in, we're spending so long of just talking about the core 12 issues, but like DC officially lists it as 60 total, and then as Lunga mentioned, there's so much of that led up to this too. It's insane.
Oh, did you mention in your recap that it ends with Harbinger?
Yes.
Going to kill the Monitor? Okay, I don't know if I missed that or not.
I did.
Okay.
Yep.
I did. But I suppose that's a good segue into issue 4. Yeah. All right. So issue 4, which is titled "And Thus Shall the World Die," it begins with Supergirl and Batgirl discussing their views on the end of the world, where Batgirl is feeling useless and just doesn't feel like she can really do anything, but Supergirl wants to do more and tries to save anybody that she can, even if they could just live a little longer. I must say, I absolutely love this moment. Just the whole just comparison between how the two just thought about it. Like, you have to really consider like how the street level heroes really feel at this time, right? Like they probably feel really useless, but then you have these super powered people like Supergirl, Superman, and they're just there trying to save all these people. And I love this little interaction here to where Supergirl saves somebody and that person's like, what's the point of saving me just to live for a few more seconds? And so, but anyway, continuing on, we then see Pariah appears at another Earth that's dying, but then rescues somebody this time named Lady Quark. And then the Monitor, we then see, steals a Japanese scientist. Back to that later. The evil threat then summons Red Tornado to recruit him. And then we then get a glimpse at the last focal point that we haven't seen yet, which is on Earth 2. We then see Firestorm and Killer Frost as they're then, like... Let's see here. It's... Psycho Pirate used his powers before being abducted to fall in love with Firestorm. So this whole thing is being funny because they're like mortal enemies, and then now she's loving him.
That,
yeah, there's so much, but anyway, they're just these new lovers and fight against all these shadows at the focal point. Anyway, and then now all the heroes are then starting to just accept that the end's coming, and then we then see that the towers start activating, and then they're like, wait, what? This isn't right. So then they rush thinking that the towers is a bad thing, and then we now see Dr. Light, who was previously the scientist, comes out and like just essentially does a flashbang to stop them all, being like, hey, stop, we need these focal points to continue living. And so, so that stops all the heroes, and then we then see Pariah appear in the Monitor space station. It is then revealed that the Monitor is who cursed Pariah to, witness the death of every single Earth here. And then it's also revealed that, well, Earth 1 and 2 has this like special connection with each other. So that's why there's all these points scattered in between them and all the different times. And then they're the Earths that's set to perish next. And then it ends where Harbinger then enters and then kills the monitor and then just disappears. And then we see, and then the end is where we see Earth 1 and 2, they just die. Or that's what it looks like. They die. It just all fades to white and then goes dark. So yeah, what a ending that is. But, I mean, just the whole issue in general. To where just, you get, especially, I mean, mainly that last half, with all the stuff with Pariah, you get to learn more about his character. And then, we then see Harbinger kill the monitor, and then it looks like Earth 1 and 2 are gone. Looks like everything's gone. And as I said at the beginning, I think one of my favorite interactions in between this whole series is I love the whole contrast between Batgirl and Supergirl at the beginning.
Yeah. And that again plays into later issues when it comes to Supergirl.
It's so great.
When you think about what they say to each other, that was spectacular. And two, just the impending doom. I've like up until that point, reading comics, I'd never seen anything this devastating. Right? You look at that sky, and as a kid, it was so terrifying to me. It was like this blackness with these light streaking, and then this white, which white usually isn't like. You think white good, right? It's light, and then okay, that sounded bad. That's not what I meant. But usually in art, when you have the color white, it's supposed to be representative of light, and it takes away the darkness and the darkness. But the darkness of the sky is being eradicated, and the world is just being eradicated by this white antimatter that's coming through, and things just cease to be. That's it. Not death, not this, just erased. It's like this giant eraser. It just erases stuff from fucking existence. And I guess, people kind of saw that at MCU, with Thanos, with the snap, the dusting, but it was that, but on such a grander scale, because you saw just random people. These was entire universes just gone. And you see that happening, and it was so amazing. And then when we get to Pariah, you realize oh my God, what's happening here? This is not just some little deal. Worlds. I mean, that was the catchline, I believe, for Crisis, right? Worlds will die. I think was the tagline for Crisis. And you see, and then you realize what's going on with him. He is cursed to watch billions of people cease to be over and over and over again, which is like holy shit. And that's what made me think, as I got older, I'm like, this was for kids. This is like deep. This is some heavy stuff going on here. I'm like, like, this is for kids. Like, wow. The colors in there that you see as they do it is just tremendous stuff. Lady Quark, she felt like that character you see in movies nowadays that they want to make important, and it's just like, you're not wrong. She really, it's like they shoehorned her in, and it just didn't feel right. Like, I like the whole Dr. Light thing. That was cool with her. And some of the other, but like with Lady Quark, it just didn't work for me for some reason.
Yeah, they could have picked a better character for him to save and be the only one that he saves from a dying world. I understand why they did what they did, but the character could have been a better character, because they needed him to try and save one person that didn't want to be saved, and then resent him for it for the rest of the story until the end, and realizing, he's not the one to resent.
Right. And then we get one of the most underrated heroes, I think, in DC ever. Everyone talks about in the MCU. Everyone talks about Vision. Okay, Red Tornado. All right, Vision was ripped. They ripped off Red Tornado,
absolutely,
for Vision.
100%.
Okay,
Yeah.
but it's a little
100%.
deeper because he has a spirit, the spirit of wind, like a deity basically inside of him.
Right.
I guess you
Yeah.
could compare it to an
Mhm.
Infinity Gem, but it's the same thing too. He was an android built, and you know, the way they showed him in here when he was going up against Psycho Pirate and talking to himself, it was a really cool little scene. Having him in there too, and then we got the whole fucking King Arthur's right. You got Sir Justin and shit coming in, right, flying on in, and fire the whole thing with Firestorm, and what was it Blizzard? That was her name, right?
Killer
Frost. Killer
Frost.
Frost.
Was it Killer Frost?
Yeah,
Yes,
it's Killer
Killer
Frost.
Oh yeah, it was Killer Frost. Oh shit, yeah, it
Killer
was. I forgot
Frost,
her design
yeah.
looked way different back then.
It
Yes.
does. It did.
Yeah,
She looked like Emma Frost.
yeah. But I like their whole little dichotomy here. They tried doing that in the CW too, when they had Robbie die in the CW, and
Mhm.
DC
Absolutely,
also,
yes.
I think. But that was pretty cool to see as well. And the new Dr. Light, they introduced a new Dr. Light, and this is a time no one compared. You replaced the guy with a woman. No one compared. No one complained.
No one cared. Yeah, no one cared.
No one complained. We're like, cool. It's a new Dr. Light, and she's good instead of bad, because Dr. Light was a bad guy. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah. So it's pretty good. We getting the new Dr. Light. And good stuff. Good stuff. Again, it progressed the storyline, which was important. There was some important stuff. I would say that at this point, other than some big highlight moments that were really important, I felt it hit a little bit of a lull. But then you get to near the end panels, and you just see all that vertical line of all those, which is a tremendous layout for a panel, right? You got these 16:9 panel boxes, and then you got the center vertical panel with the Earth's being destroyed, and then you got bookending, you got the tuning forks on either side, and then Monitor and Pariah, which is just an amazing 2-page layout. Very inventive, not something you'd see in comic books much. Again, it goes back to George Perez, the brilliance of George Perez as an artist, man. There's some really cool stuff that he did in this, and that to me, honestly, other than the writing elements, which were good, the best part of this was the art. The art in this issue was spectacular. That last page, it's just fucking smoke, dude.
Yeah.
But it's so like
Powerful.
yeah.
It really is. And just, you're at that point too of like, they're obviously not like gone, but like,
right.
It's still like, what happened here? It's just like everything.
Because at the bottom, it's like to be continued? Question mark.
Right. Right. Obviously, there's more. There's 8 other parts, but like, it's not there anymore. Where's all the heroes now?
Well, when it was coming out, you didn't know how many more there were.
Yeah, they did.
Did you?
They called it.
No, they announced it was a 12
maxi
issue
series.
maxi series.
12.
Yeah.
They said 12. Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then going back,
and you said they announced it 4 years
prior
before
to when it
out.
actually started coming out. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that was just the announcement of a maxi series. They didn't really give details of what
Yeah.
was happening in it, but
was
they
just-
announced, we have this big maxi series coming out. It's gonna, like The Rock, right? The power structure of DC is just gonna change forever.
Power structure in DC is going
Except
to
it,
change.
except it
hierarchy.
actually does.
Hierarchy,
That's the thing. It actually does this time.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, just the only other note that I really have to add is, Lunga, you were talking about, just Pariah, and you're just trying to imagine like what he goes through every time, and you really feel for him too, because like every single time you see him, he's like going through all this, you just see like the tears in his eyes too, like that art just really speaks out every single time you see him there.
Like you
Right.
would,
And his whole thing with him too is I don't remember if he said it this early, but he's cursed and he knows it, but he also feels like this is a justifiable punishment for him. Like he deserves this.
He deserves. Well, he
feels that he deserves this punishment.
later, obviously, we find some more information on that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you wouldn't wish what he goes through on your worst enemy at all.
It's insane. You got to feel for him, but at the same time, we'll see. We'll delve into that as we learn his backstory later.
Yeah.
But yeah. But what does happen to the Earths? Thank you for watching this video. Before you go, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video. See you next time, here on the Dingus Den.